Gira Anachari. Jai Om Vishnu Paraparama Hongsa Paravaracharya Stotra. There we go. Sorry. It keeps changing the hosts, and then I get locked out of being able to unmute myself. I don't know why it's doing that. Hare Krishna. Everybody can hear me again? Okay. Jai Om Vishnu Padapar Mahangsa Parvacharya Stotra Shapta Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 2, Text number 7. This chapter is the activities of Maharaj Agnidra. Text number 7. Tatom chikir shashicha Himunivarya Shaile Maya Sikapi Bhagavat Paradevataya Vijay Bibharshi Dhanushi Surid Atmanorte Himva Mrigan Mrigaya Se Vipine Pramatan. Word for word. Ka, who, Twam, are you? Chikir Shasi. Are you trying to do cha also? Him, what? Muni Varya, oh best of Munis. Shaile on this hill, Maya, illusory potency. Let's see. Are you Kapi, some Bhagavat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paradevataya, of the Transcendental Lord, Vijay, without strings. Ibharshi, you are carrying. Danushi, two bows. Surit of a friend, Atmana of yourself, Arte for the sake, Kimva, or Mrigan, forest animals. Mrigyase, are you trying to hunt? Vipine, in this forest. Pramattan, who are materially maddened. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The prince mistakenly addressed the Apsara. O best of saintly persons, who are you? Why are you on this hill? And what do you want to do? Are you one of the illusory potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? You seem to be carrying two bows without strings. What is the reason you carry these bows? Is it for some purpose of your own or for the sake of a friend? Perhaps you carry them to kill the mad animals in the forest. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. While undergoing severe penances in the forest, Agnidra was captivated by the movements of Purvachiti, the girl sent by Lord Brahma. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Tamais tais tair ta jnana. When one becomes lusty, he loses his intelligence. Therefore, Agnidra, having lost his intelligence, could not distinguish whether Purvachiti was male or female. He mistook her for a Muni Putra, the son of a saintly person in the forest, and addressed her as Muni Varya. Because of her personal beauty, however, he could not believe her to be a boy. He therefore began studying her features. First, he saw her two eyebrows, which were so expressive that he wondered whether he or she might be the Maya of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words used in this connection are Bhagavat Para Devatayaha. Devata, the demigods, all belong to this material world, whereas Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always beyond this material world and is therefore known as Paradevata. The material world is certainly created by Maya, but it is created under the direction of Paradevata, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mayad yakshena prakritihi suyate Sacharacharam. Maya is not the ultimate authority for the creation of this material world. Maya acts on behalf of Krishna. Purvachitti's eyebrows were so beautiful that Agnidra compared them to bows without strings. He therefore asked her whether they were to be used for her own purposes or for the sake of someone else. Her eyebrows were like bows meant to kill animals in the forest. This material world is like a great forest, and its inhabitants are like forest animals, such as deer and tigers meant to be killed. The killers are the eyebrows of beautiful women. Captivated by the beauty of the fair sex, all the men of the world are killed by bows without strings, but cannot see how they are killed by Maya. It is a fact, however, that they are being killed. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. By dint of his tapasya, Agnidra could understand how Maya acts under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word pramatan is also significant. Pramata refers to one who cannot control his senses. The entire material world is being exploited by people who are pramata or vimuda. Prahlad Maharaj therefore said, Shoche tato vimuka chetasa indriyarta Maya Sukaya Bharam Udvahato Vimudhan. They are rotting in material activities for transient material pleasure and spoiling their lives, toiling all day and night simply for sense gratification with no attachment for love of Godhead. I am simply lamenting for them and devising various plans to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9-43. Prahlad Maharaj was simply lamenting for them and devising various plans to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. We'll be devising plans no matter what. Prahlad sets the example of what kind of plans to devise. Devising plans. There's a little more here. Karmis, who are very seriously for sense gratification, are always referred to in the Shastras by such terms as pramata, vimukha, and vimudha. They are killed by Maya. However, one who is apramata, a sane, sober person, a dhira, knows very well that a human being's primary duty is to render service to the Supreme Person. Maya is always ready to kill those who are pramata with her invisible bows and arrows. Agnidara questioned Purvachiti about this. Uh, Omniyatimurandasyanananjanashvaya chakshuromilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram, Hare Hare. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master kindly forced open my eyes, torchlight of knowledge. Offer my humble obeisances to such a spiritual master. Translation again. The prince mistakenly addressed the Apsara. Best of saintly persons, who are you? Why are you on this hill? And what do you want to do? Are you one of the illusory potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? You seem to be carrying two bows without strings. What is the reason you carry these bows? Is it for some purpose of your own or for the sake of a friend? Perhaps you carry them to kill the mad animals in the forest. Okay. Okay, well, with your blessings, we'd say something about this very ecstatic verse, have some discussion on combating Maya, dealing with our existential predicament here in the material world, which, as Prabhupada points out, not the spiritual world. It is not the, Prabhupada says, it is not the author, not the control, the ultimate control, not the authority. That's it. Maya is not the ultimate authority for the creation of this material world. Maya acts on behalf of Krishna. So this material world has no authority of its own. Now, to me, this verse reminds me of, maybe that's not it, maybe it's 2:12 of the Bhagavad Gita purport that Prabhupada gives, where he talks about setting the goal. When the goal is set, then everything is okay, which is prayojana. Our philosophy is sambandha avideya prayojana. Um, well, oh, here it is. Was what I was looking for. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Well, that's all right. I'm not finding what I was looking for in the Bhagavad Gita. However, the fact is, in this purport, it's a wonderful drama. The Srimad Bhagavatam is filled with so many personalities. When you have personalities, you have drama. And so that makes for good literature, some sort of drama, and it adds a little spice to life. And the backdrop, the stage, so to speak, the variety that creates the drama, uh, for us in our existential position is the fact that there is two worlds. There's the material world and there's the spiritual world. So, and they are not the same. One is superior to the other, one is inferior. And so therefore there's all the elements of drama. So I'll just give an example, a little example, and especially where we have a bunch of students here that just arrived yesterday, and one of the activities we're doing with them is we're going to have maybe we'll see what happens. But our we've devised a plan for their transcendental entertainment with devotees to have a devotee and student interaction of a chess contest and some table tennis contest and a chess contest tournament. So, and it's interesting. And chess is a pure abstract strategy game, which means there's no element of chance. There's no Eustace rolling the dice. So there aren't any dice in chess. There's no element of chance. It's a pure, which means without anything else. So, uh, like we say, pure devotee. That means a devotee who, without anything except devotion, right? All devotion, no Maya, all devotion is pure devotee. So, so a pure abstract strategy game uh, is the reason that people want to play it is because it's dramatic, it's fun. There's always some drama, and there's there's several things that go into making a good. There's a reason why, like Krishna played chess. Apparently, Balaram played chess. Uh, there's a reason why people played chess for thousands of years, and that's because it has certain elements to it that make for the dramatic entertainment of the game. And that's that there must be tension. So uh, I was involved with a friend of mine in inventing a pure abstract strategy game, no element of chance, just a pure abstract strategy game, kind of similar to chess. And so we studied what makes for a great pure abstract strategy game. And one of the things is you must have tension. If there's not a lot of tension, then the game is boring. There also must be decisiveness. And otherwise, again, it just drags on forever and it's boring. If you just get bogged down in trench warfare, you know, World War I trench warfare, that's just boring. And so there needs to be a way to bring things to a close quickly. And as Prabhupada keeps alluding to here he used the word kill like 20 times in this purport, didn't he? So killing is decisive. It brings a decisive end to your little existential episode here in the material world. Uh, Bows meant to kill animals in the forest. The killers of the eyebrows of beautiful women. They are being killed. From Prabhupada uses kill over and over again. It's decisiveness. He says, they are killed by Maya again. Uh, Maya is always ready to kill those who are pramata with her invisible bows and arrows. And so there's a lot of killing going on in this material world. It's not the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, everything is eternal, right? Eternal means not killed. And but there's a lot of tension as a spark of spiritual consciousness. We're 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 living out the existential drama here in the material world. We actually are naturally by nature eternal souls. Uh, we know by knowledge that we are not the body. It's quite another thing to actually realize you're not the body fully in vijnana and fully realized knowledge that you're not the body. Uh, it's one thing to beat people with the with the cane with the stick of you're not the body as uh, some sort of polemical dogma. You're not Steve Prabhu. I can beat you with that all day. You're not, you know, you're not wearing a dhoti and carrying the Bhagavad Gita around. You're in Maya, right? I can beat people with that, but that doesn't mean that I realize that I'm not the body. And the mind is part of the body, right? So when we want to beat other people with our dogma, that's because we're enslaved to our mind. And so but realizing that you're not the body is a whole nother thing. And that's because it's Krishna can make the best drama. Here we are, you know. We're here, even though we're eternally spiritual sparks, eternal souls. It is the eternal consciousness, uh, which is all personality, by the way. And as I say, anytime there's personality, there's drama. So there's all this drama just uh, emanating from our actual nature, right? Because to be eternal means to have a personality. It doesn't mean anything else. So there's no, that's one of the reasons why, devotees are so sold out to Prabhupada, to Krishna, to the Shastra for very good reason. And that's because when you, philosophy deals in goals, deals in priorities. What is I'm stuck in some existential situation, so what do I do now? That's what philosophy means. And there's a lot of, there's, I would say there's a lot. There's a few different major philosophies in the world. And, but there's nothing like Krishna consciousness because Krishna, personalism, the idea that God is actually a person and that ultimately everything is personal, that there's a personality behind every energy. We have, when you read the Bhagavatam, you learn about all the devatas and all the cosmic administrators and this and that. And this kaleidoscopic cornucopia of drama and personality catches fire in your mind. And so you become so attached to Krishna and Prabhupada and the sources of this knowledge because there's really nothing else like it. There's so much, as we say, dry philosophy out there, and that doesn't capture, doesn't give you a realized experience, a direct experience, a natural experience of knowledge that's just connected to what you really are and who you really are. Dry philosophy is an imposition on the mind. But Krishna consciousness is not an imposition on the mind. It's the natural situation of the mind. And part of that is we as devotees should all learn to embrace the drama because personalism is just the ultimate philosophy. The idea that God is a person and that human beings, animals, trees, anything that expresses consciousness is ultimately a person. So, I mean, he wasn't the greatest of all philosophers, but he was very well educated from a very well educated family. His brother is a famous novelist, the James brothers, Henry James and William James. William James wrote it's quite a good book, just from an intellectual point of view, uh, called Varieties of Religious Experience, and he went all around the world. He also wrote a book on psychology, which, anyway, that's a whole other story, which is a very good book on psychology. A lot of things that they discover as brand new supposed psychology today, people doing their research for their PhDs and whatever. William James laid all this stuff out in the 19th century in the principles of psychology. But he wrote this other book, The Varieties of Religious Experience. And in that book, he lays out that we have no experience of consciousness. It's a great, great little thought quote by him, that we have no experience of consciousness that is not seated in some person. If you think about that, you will be convicted by that. We have no experience in this drama which we are situated in, this existential tension between the fact that there's a spiritual world and there is a material world, and we're caught up in this material body. And in fact, we're only gaining access to our eternal nature, our eternal knowledge through this material body. So, it's this body that we're using for service. We're using the brain that we've been given for reading the Shastra and hearing the Shastra, etc. So even though there's also a swarup, a spiritual body, a spiritual identity, which we're trying to realize, we're, we're, we're in the drama of having a material body and mind, no matter what. So we are bound by tight ropes of the material body and mind. And that's an incredible drama. So, uh, the main distinction of verses like this isn't to have some dogma to beat other people with, beautiful women are evil, you know, you're not the body, Prabhu, blah blah blah, you know, uh, whatever you do, don't look at any of the objects of the senses. I mean, good luck with that. Anyway, uh, that's not the point. The point isn't to beat yourself or others with some sort of dogma. The point is that actually there's a source to all of these distinctions. As Prabhupada says here, that Maya is not the ultimate authority for the creation of this material world. Maya acts on behalf of Krishna. In a way, those two sentences are Prabhupada's summation of our philosophy, that there are two different worlds. And at the source of our philosophy is personalism. And at the source of everything is God, but God who's a person who has names. Everything that's personal is identified uh, with some name. And, the names are evocative, indicative of our activities, of what our culture is, where we came from, right? Like, so, people have, of course, when you're a devotee, you become twice born, you know, you're, you get a spiritual name, a Sanskrit name, a name from Krishna's activities, and, fundamentally humble, but incredibly exciting name that's connected with Krishna as a servant, right? We have Das or Devi Dasi on the end of our names. So, and that's personalism, right? Which says, and the Shastra explains, Prabhupada explains uh, that God has an infinite number of names, but all of God's names go with God's activities. And if you think about it, so does the names of everybody that you encounter in this world, even when they're not devotees. They still think they're the body, whatever. Uh, the non-devotees out in the world all have names that are coming out of some culture. And of course, they also have spiritual names. I mean, John, Mark, Matthew, those are Paul, those are all names of the disciples. Those are religious names also. So, uh, because the names go with activities of your culture, what kind of culture your parents had. So, uh, this tension between the material world and the spiritual world is very exciting. It's not it's not like some it's not like just some litmus test. Like, uh, I'm I'm willing to say that you're not the body, and you should surrender to Krishna, and therefore everything is good. In some ways, that's true, but the essence of our philosophy is personalism, that there is an authority over this world who is a person, who has names, Krishna. Prabhupada says Maya acts on behalf of Krishna. Prabhupada occasionally uses the word God. The word God, by the way, is German. Uh, and it comes down from Sanskrit, means comes down from the word Sanskrit hotra. The H used to be a GH. So into German, the G is still retained, and the T becomes a D. That's how we, in English, that's how we get God. And hotra in Sanskrit means that which is invoked. This is like a metaphor. So it's okay to speak in metaphors. We have to do it all the time. Why? Because we're stuck with metaphors. Metaphor means something that's a facsimile. It means something that's it's a it's a reference, it's a pointer of something that isn't actually existing but is used to talk about something that's real. That's a metaphor. And so the word God is not a very powerful word to use to describe the ultimate authority over existence because it's not getting directly to the essential nature of that authority. Uh, so, where especially because we become so attached as devotees to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness because it's it's just so essentially connected to who we ourselves are. We are eternally persons, right? Only persons can have a drama, feel everything that's going on that we're dealing with, right? Now, it may be that there's the tension created between uh, the the illusory experience and the real experience, the material and the spiritual experience. There's a tension between those two experiences, and it may be that depending on our fortune, depending on how much mercy we get, depending on how uh, receptive we are to knowledge, um, how realized we are, how surrendered, how willing to grow we are or not, then we may tend more towards a culture of spiritual culture, or we may tend more towards a culture and being in the so-called world of names, uh, called the nominative. It's a whole branch of philosophy deals with the nominal, which means the naming of things. And we may tend more towards the material naming of things. And, that is what it is. So, but but that tension, that drama isn't in and of itself a problem, really. It's not like you're not the body, you think you're the body. Well, okay, but that's by design, right? So it's Krishna's world. Krishna has divided the world between the material and the spiritual world. And so that drama is exciting. It's all part of essentially who we are. Why? Because drama goes with persons, right? Computer programs don't have drama. Robots don't have drama. Only eternal personalities have drama. In fact, if there's no eternality, how can there even be any drama? Because then everything is just random. It's all coming and going. There's no ultimate meaning to anything because nothing has any lasting purpose. Whereas when you're an eternal soul, everything has incredible, deep, lasting meaning. So you can just keep building upon your devotion, keep adding to your bhakti, ever fresh, ever new. It's because of the nature of eternality. So, of all the philosophies, literatures of the world, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chincha Beta Beta Tattva, there's just nothing higher than that. Devotees become so attached to it. But we should become attached to it where we actually become joyful in the drama. We actually do have material bodies and minds. And so, the whole attack against in language against lust and this and that, uh, you know, the eyebrows of the beautiful woman are chilling, you know, all this kind of stuff is really just to set priorities within the drama, right? You have to have prayojana, you have to have the goal. Prabhupada says that once the goal is set, then, which was the quote I was looking for, I wanted to quote you the actual thing, but I'll paraphrase it. Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita in his purports, once the goal is set, once Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personalism as a philosophy is some attachment to the idea of everything having an essentially personal nature forms in your consciousness, then you have the goal set. Well, I need some banda. I must have a relationship, right, with that supreme person. Once the goal is set, Prabhupada says, then gradual progress is made uh, until one becomes completely pure. We go back to God. So, of course, having a relationship with the spiritual master is like an incredible shortcut, superpower, uh, ultra merciful leapfrog straight to the spiritual world. And serving a pure devotee is as good as being a pure. So otherwise, our philosophy has no meaning. So it's not like some kind of purity contest, Krishna consciousness, not in any way. So yes, there has to be, because there is a spiritual world which is pure and there is a material world which is not pure, there has to be knowledge about the impure and the pure. That's a fact. However, bhakti itself is not a contest for purity. That's idiotic. There would be no meaning to mercy because you don't have to earn mercy. The word mercy, by definition, means you don't have to earn it. Otherwise, it's not mercy, it's something else. So, in our philosophy, it's founded in mercy. So, you don't have to earn mercy. So, the pure devotees are so dear to Krishna, all you have to do, even by accident, out of Sukriti, you just have to do some service for someone who is pure, who is very dear to Krishna, and Krishna becomes so beholden to you that you leapfrog right to the spiritual atmosphere, the spiritual connection, the bhakti yoga. You can't mess it up if you somehow fall into the inconceivable good fortune of doing service for the pure devotees. Even just hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we're so fortunate, getting so much mercy because Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Prabhupada's purports, it's all very pleasing to Krishna. So we are in possession of the most sublime philosophy. It is not in any way a purity contest. You know, I'll prove I'm less the body than you. You know, anyway, it's not like that. There has to be discussion of the categories, that there is the pure and the impure, so that you can set a proper goal and you can educate others, especially children, to have proper goals, so that you have a proper culture, so that the names all have meaning, right? It's a wonderful drama. We can embrace the drama. The only way you're able to do any service for the pure devotees is with the material body and mind that you have. Because you have the proper goal, you're focused on the right relationships with pure devotees, then it all becomes spiritual, but you're still doing it with your material body and mind. If you're not, then please show me your swarup. Let's see your effulgence, right? No, you're using your material body and mind, period. So, and that's okay. So, this whole idea that we're infinitely bad and, all right, I'll throw it over the last 15 minutes. I'll throw it open for some discussion on the great, wonderful Vaishnav controversy of the fall of the jiva. So I give you the Nitaicand version, my own attitude towards the fall of the jiva controversy, which is not that it's an extremely, by the way, I better not go there. That'd be too long of a conversation. Uh, anyway, this whole idea that the material world is infinitely bad, and it's all lust and blah blah blah. It's all purity contest, etc. A lot of ways comes from this fall of the jiva thing. Like, oh, we're the biggest morons in the whole universe, and we turned our back on Krishna. We came here to the spiritual world, and we must beat ourselves and beat everyone else until everybody surrenders and we surrender. And blah blah blah, because we're infinitely bad. I think that's a very attractive philosophy, quite frankly, myself. So I don't have that view of the fall of the jiva. Just throw this out there, but we could have uh, a little Vaishnav controversy discussion for the last 15 minutes. To me, we didn't come to this material world because we're some sort of infinitely evil idiots. How are you going to leave Krishna, right? Krishna is all attractive. His main name means all attractive. How can you be all attractive if people turn their back on you? That's not all attractive. And in fact, this whole idea that, you're a fallen soul, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That again has to do with the drama. It has to do with the categories, the distinction between the material and the spiritual world. But it's not like, you're Sat Chit and Ananda. If you're Sat Chit and Ananda as your eternal nature, and you're in the spiritual world with a Sat Chit, with a body made of Sat Chit and Ananda, you just got to turn your back on Krishna. That's ludicrous for some idiotic reason, right? I've heard people say, and this is okay. I'm not criticizing them for saying this. That I've heard various different teachers say, sannyasis say, oh, well, when they get asked this question, we came down to the warns in the Bhagavad Gita. Don't get all caught up in this. He says no one can trace out when they left the spiritual world and started into the cycle of birth and death. So don't waste time trying to figure it out, trying to regress all your past lifetimes until you figure out the moment when you made the fatal mistake of coming to the material world. Prabhupada says, well, you don't have time for that. Uh, Other philosophies, that's the whole turtle thing. Like it's turtles all the way down, holding up the universe. It's like you can't get too caught up in these things. But I've heard people say, well, we wanted to be Lord Brahma. We wanted to still serve Krishna, but we wanted a secondary lower taste. So we came to the material world. We wanted to experience being Lord Brahma, being the creator. Okay, all right. I mean, that makes a little bit of sense in some sort of desire tree or desire hierarchy panorama. All right. But I don't think so. To me, that doesn't satisfy the reason. I mean, like, what, you've got a body of Satchitananda. Why are you going to turn your back on Krishna, the ultimate personality? You're also an eternal person. So, no, I think the drama is much more exciting than that for me personally. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, I think we come to the material world to get more Krishna. Why else would you do it? If it's not to get more Krishna, why would you turn your back on Krishna? It's just ludicrous to think that you're going to turn your back on Krishna when you have a body of Satchitananda. And quite frankly, I think it makes our philosophy a bit unattractive. People get to that question to say, well, it's because you're the biggest moron of all time and you wanted to identify with a material body, even though, and you made that decision with your Satchitananda, spiritual body. You just decided you wanted the inferior body. That's ludicrous. Nobody's going to make that decision, in my opinion. So I'm not telling you I'm not presenting this as some sort of final conclusion. But our philosophy is so attractive that you can't help but wonder about these things and think about these things. We can discuss it. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that if you come to this material world and you get out, he tells Arjuna, if you get out of this material world by serving me, by yukta vairagya, by connecting everything to my service, even though you have this material and body and mind once you get here, if you do bhakti, if you don't, you know, you're not, good luck trying to make it a purity contest. This material world is very difficult to overcome. And it says in that famous verse, very difficult to overcome. However, if you just connect to me, then it's easy. It's all good. So, and he says, if you get out, then you never have to go back. Well, never have to go back means there's a guarantee. So, and that guarantee, only Krishna can offer the guarantee. And anything that Krishna offers is part of Krishna. So My opinion is we come to the material world because we wanted more Krishna. There's this idea out there that, hey, there's this guarantee. See, there's this possibility that you could fall into the material world because the material world exists. It's Krishna's creation. But you have a body of such an ananda, you're not going to go to the material world, but the possibility is kind of there. However, there's also, and you already have Krishna, you're involved in Krishna's pastimes, you're looking at Krishna. You're not going to turn your back on Krishna when you're looking at Krishna. The only reason, in my opinion, come to the material world is a positive reason, which is you want more Krishna. Why? Because you can't get that guarantee unless there is Krishna, unless you come to the material world. So, and that guarantee is more Krishna that you don't have because you have to come to the material world in order to get that guarantee. There's no guarantee that you don't have to go back to the material world unless you come to the material world by definition, isn't it? Anyway, I know that's a whole lot of sentences strung together with some logic there. But anyway, I'll throw it up. That's the fall of the Jiva controversy. Oh, the Jiva was never in the spiritual world or this or that or blah, 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 which is, I mean, a very Abrahamic religion philosophy. I don't know how people come up with that for Krishna consciousness. But anyway, I'll throw it open to there. Anybody wants to have any questions or comments, please hold forth. Thank you for your kind attention. We're all in the drama. Anybody have any thoughts on the fall of the Jiva? Want to correct me or?
Prabhu, not so much on that point, but I think something you said earlier about the material world being a negative
Saying
place.
something.
Krishna mentions
Yeah,
in the Bhagavad Gita, as you know, the Kalayama Shashvatam, right? But Prabhupada Saraswati Swami does mention Vishwam Purna Sukhayate.
Tarka has a hand waving, I think, there. Tarka, please go ahead. You don't have to wait for me.
Sri Goloka was speaking.
Is my mic not working? For some reason. Is my mic not working?
I'm hearing Sri Goloka.
Sorry, I wasn't hearing anybody. So anyway, whoever's speaking, go ahead.
Nitaicand Prabhu, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry,
okay.
The mute is on this.
Yeah.
So
nothing on the Jiva, the fall of the Jiva, but my question came up. Kind of a reflection. You mentioned the material world is not necessarily a negative place. Krishna does mention in the Gita, as you know, the Kalayama Shashvatam, right? That this place is perpetually full of misery. But Prabhupada Saraswati does mention Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, right? This world is actually a place of, pleasure or bliss. But yeah, it depends on the way we look at it, right? Like, for example, when we're preaching to new people, we have to ask them to snap out of it. We have to actually tell them, hey, look, this place, the way you're programmed is not actually, it is Dukhalayama Shashvatam, right? This place is a misery based on your consciousness, not so much the place. And then you have Prabhupada Saraswati saying it depends on the consciousness that when you become a pure devotee, you do get a chance to see everything in a different way, where you actually see everything as a service. You see everyone actually serving, and you're spreading Krishna consciousness. So I think it's all about perception, not about the place. Just my view on this.
Yes. We'll have a little quiz from the class. What is the determinant of your consciousness? Because it is true, this comparatively, the material world is horrible compared to the spiritual world. That doesn't mean that it's how can something that's the creation of Krishna be horrible, right? It's only comparatively, right? So compared to the spiritual world, without the spiritual world, it's horrible. But with the spiritual world, it's different. So when you say it depends on your consciousness, if we're preaching to new people, like, look, you're miserable for a reason, and it's because of your consciousness. What is the determinant of their consciousness? What determines someone's consciousness? You have a 4 or 5-year-old child.
Yeah.
And you have to shape her consciousness. What is it that you're giving her that shapes her consciousness?
I would say selfless service, selfless love.
What is selfless love, though, compared to selfish love? What creates the distinction?
Maya, right? Like I'm doing I'm doing it for my own pleasure versus I'm doing it for her pleasure fully.
Okay, so that means that there is an end in mind. And what do we call an end? This is a little quiz from the class.
Prayojan.
There's an end in mind. In other words, if it's for Krishna's pleasure, that's an end. You know, we're aiming towards something. And what do we call that?
Prayojan, the goal. Is that what you're
The
mentioning?
goal. Exactly.
Yeah.
Prayojana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Philosophy deals in what the Greeks called teleology. And telos in Greek means the end. So, or the purpose, the end. And anyway, that's the only way you can have any meaning in life. When people don't actually realize that their life has meaning, it's because their goals are wrong, right? If you
Mm.
have very bad goals, you're going to be depressed because you can't generate any meaning from a bad goal. It's literally what the word means. Teleology, telos, means the logic, the science, the study of meaning, of purpose, because it's the study of the ends of the goal, prayojana. So yes, thank you, Prabhu. That was beautiful, Isaac, especially bringing into it how we speak to new people, right? Because people are pretty have post-traumatic stress disorder from being told that they're gonna burn in hell and whatever, all these other things. Unless you speak exactly like I speak, you're gonna burn in hell. People don't want to hear that. Right? That's not attractive. So, and if people do want to hear that, they may be sociopaths who have weird psychology, and you don't want them in your movement anyway. So, anyway, anybody else? Thank you, Shigalo. Tarka Prabhu?
Yeah, sorry, Krishna. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Since you asked for comments on the fall of the jiva issue, first of all, I'm curious uh, to hear your understanding of Srila Prabhupada's explanation of our falls in the material world.
Well, Prabhupada says, he says those two things, at least that I've been able to connect to in the Bhagavad Gita. I can only give my own experience. I'm not trying to define anything absolutely authoritative. It's literally a dialogue sort of it's a controversial question for discussion. But the two things are, one, he says, don't try to trace out, don't try to go there, quite frankly. No one can trace out. That's the actual words Prabhupada uses. No one can trace out when they first came to the material world, which was their first lifetime. Prabhupada says no one can trace that out. I mean, I'm sure Krishna can, but as he says to Arjuna, Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's like, I was trained as a yogi when we went to the forest. I can remember 23 of my lifetimes. Krishna says, yes, you can remember 23 of your lifetimes. You're a great yogi. He says, but I can remember all your lifetimes. You were with me, with the sun god hundreds of millions of lifetimes ago. I remember them all. I remember all your lifetimes. So Prabhupada says, is basically saying, well, you're not God, you're not Krishna, so don't waste your time trying to figure that out. And then at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna offers this guarantee, which is that if you get out of the material world and you go back to Godhead, I guarantee you never have to return, which is that's just straightforward. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. You do not have to return to this material world. That's a guarantee. Never having to do something is a guarantee, right? So, and therefore, because it's connected to the material world, that guarantee, that means that you can't get that guarantee unless you come to the material world. I don't know if that I know it's a bunch of things that go together. You have to keep all in your mind at the same time. But you can't come to this material world, You can't get Krishna's guarantee unless you come to the material world. Then you never have to come back. But if you already have a body of Satchitananda in the spiritual world, there's a little bit of Krishna that you don't have. Even though you're looking at Krishna, there's a part of Krishna you don't have because you have to have taken a material body and mind and then overcome it and gotten out of the material world and returned back to the spiritual world. You have to have had that journey, that drama, in order to have Krishna's guarantee, and you don't have it otherwise, which means that you just wanted more Krishna. That's why you came to the material world. Now you may have thought, well, I'll be Lord Brahma and it won't be so bad, which is, then your problems start. So that's my view of it. The material world is not the spiritual world, and we have trouble there. Okay, here's Radha Damodar. Haribol, thank you for your kind attention and your comments. Haribol. Should I turn this mic off? Retrasade pure strade. Ah.
His Divine Grace is the Bhakti Still Prabhupada. Prem se kalo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Chandra Babu Giri Govindan Ki Jai. Sri Radha Ki Jai. Purnam Tam Ki Jai. Jagannath Purnam Ki Gangamaya Munamaya Ki Tulasi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Samavit Bhakti Vrinda Ki Kago Pramanande. All voices assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru. Lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way that we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to the lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By His grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from the lotus path. Attachment to His lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From Him ecstatic prema emanates. By Him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual masters, devotioners, friend, Lord Master. O Master, please be merciful unto us. Give us famous all three worlds. We take a shelter of your mercy. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Shigaloka Prabhu, and Hare Krishna. Shigaloka manifested himself in different ways.